G'day guys, welcome back to another video with Eno here from Fantasy Take TV. Today we'll be going through my Game Week 3 team selection. So go out to Twitter, as I'm going to do for pretty much every one of these videos. I think for the rest of the season, it sort of just kicks the video off with answering a few questions that any of you guys have. So I'll only get the ones from Twitter, so make sure you go across there, give me a follow, and then look out, on sort of a Thursday, Friday, and then, well, it depends, I guess. Deadlines change from week to week once the season goes on in FPL, but just keep a lookout, and I'll tweet, probably the day before the deadline, a day or two, and ask for some questions. So we'll get into those. I guess we'll start with them, and then we'll get into the team sort of at the end. So first one is from Abs, and he says, or she, thoughts on Liverpool assets in regards to the protest at Old Trafford, heavily considering downgrading Robbo to Cucurella, banking the cash, and then using that to sort of restructure next week. On the first part of that question, I'm not going to sit here and say or pretend like I know what's going to happen at that game on the weekend. I'll just play the game as it is, and I'm not transferring Robbo or making any moves in regards to a possible protest at Old Trafford. I'm not going to play the game like that. If it happens, it happens. It has in the past, and we cop that on the chin. In regards to the actual question sort of around downgrading Robbo to Cucurella, unless you really need that cash and you were spending it now, I don't see, again, the point in doing that this week. So I think there's points in the game for Robbo. I think Gomez should be starting. He came off the bench last week. I think he'll be fit enough to start, and that'll help Van Dijk and their defence as a whole compared to Phillips. I think also Henderson will be starting in midfield. He also had a little injury niggle, came off the bench as well. I think that'll improve them, and I think United are just in an absolute world of pain right now, and there's points in that game for him. So unless you needed to use it to upgrade a Bailey or something, which I guess I think is another question later on, and it was someone in your starting 11, then I would do it and downgrade Robbo and get a Bailey up to someone that it's better off starting, or Neto or something. But if you're just banking the cash and your 11 is good anyway, I'd keep Robbo for this week and then reassess next week. So that's how I would look at it. Michael asks, taking a hit for Trippier to either James, Rico Henry from Brentford, or Cucurella. Discuss. The only person here you take a hit for is Reece James. He's a guy that can pay that off in spades, and especially in one game week. I'm not taking a hit to go from Trippier to Rico Henry or Cucurella, in my opinion. I think the only person you would do it for is Reece James. It makes a lot of sense to get someone like that, especially with the fixtures coming up. Otherwise, I would just hold Trippier. I know you the fixtures aren't great, but I wouldn't be taking a hit to get him out to a Henry or someone like that. Reece James is probably about the only defender I would do it to, or if you didn't have Trent or whatever, Cancelo. But other than those two guys, Reece is probably the only one I would take a hit and do that for. Otherwise, I wouldn't at all. Katz asks, are you tempted to upgrade a $4 million goalkeeper to someone else? If yes, then who? Tempted is probably the wrong word. If I could, I would. But unfortunately, that's not how my team's been set up, and I just don't have the cash, or it's not the priority transfer for me. If you could and you were able to, I think the two are Sanchez or Raya, who I would choose out of those two. I think I would go Sanchez just because I trust their defence more. They've been pretty decent over a long period of time. I think 2 or 3 years now under Potter, and they've always been very good. For goals conceded, chances conceded. But Brentford do look good, and their fixtures are probably that little bit better, but I think I would trust Sanchez more. But I think both are probably the two best options. And I would do a 4.5, obviously, unless you had cash. Even if you had cash for a 5 million, I would probably still go with one of those two guys and bank the cash. Next one. James just asked simply what to do with Bailey. So I think it's simple. There's two things. If he's on your bench, and you haven't already done Bailey to De Silva, then you just go to another 4.5, or there might be a 4.4 look out for. Well, there is. It's Al Neni, but he's an Arsenal player, and I assume most people would want triple Arsenal. Andre Gomez might be falling in the next day or two before the deadline, and he'll be a 4.4 mid where you can just bank some more cash to use elsewhere. If he's in your starting 11, it's a little bit more difficult to just do a straight swap to someone. Funnily enough, I think the best one would be Granit Xhaka, who's playing quite advanced in Arsenal's midfield, but his role's a little bit uncertain, probably deeper into the season, with Tierney back, Zinchenko. I will speak about that later. But also, again, another Arsenal player. You definitely want 3 other Arsenal players instead of Xhaka. So if he's on your field, it's a bit more difficult. You might just go, again, down to a 4.5, 4.4. And if you've got Andres Pereira, which I'm sure most do, I would field him for a week and then reassess next week. But if he's just on your bench, by the time you're watching this, you've already eaten a price drop, and you would have missed a De Silva price rise. So I would either just hold and you can field your 11 this week that you've got, or if you want to bank some cash for next week and you got no other transfers to do, then go down to a 4.5, or as I said, a 4.4 if Andre Gomez becomes available. Josh asks Cucurella versus Walker, who to bring in. A big one. A lot of people are deciding between. I think it just comes down to what you think your third city asset will be, and if you think you'll want to bring one in. Pretty much simple as that. Are you going to want to bring in a Foden? Are you going to want to bring in a Gundogan at some point? And if the answer is no, I think you're bringing Kyle Walker all day. And if the answer is maybe or yes, then I think you go Cucurella, because I still think Cucurella is a great option and definitely more attacking than Walker. But he's maybe more of a shorter term. And to be honest, they probably are both shorter term. So Cucurella is a more exciting one. Be playing left wing back for the time being. But I think Walker will be a bit more safer for clean sheets. And yeah, Cucurella may be a bit more upside with, if he gets an assist clean sheet, there's some bigger scores there, which Kyle Walker just really isn't involved much up the pitch. So it's a tough one, but again, Walker actually has already risen in price, and Cucurella may before the deadline, so keep an eye on that as well. And then last one, Barnes. This is a favourite of mine. Saka to Luis Diaz or Kulusevski. Arsenal seem to be playing through Martinelli's side, leaning Kulu. Kane captain, as we'll get into that first. I'll answer the first one. You're not trading Bukayo Saka before Bournemouth and Fulham. That's as simple as that for me. I know to some people he's been disappointing. That's just because he hasn't gotten points, but he's still getting in good positions. He has more penalty area touches than Martinelli. So I know Martinelli's got the goals, and that's all we see is the points on field and in our team. But Saka is still a perfectly viable option, and I think there's heaps of points for him in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So unless you have absolutely nothing else to do and you're just not happy, I would not be doing that transfer. And another thing, I'll save that for later actually. And then Kane captain as a unique option versus or Salah. Look, I think there's a lot of decent options this week with none that super stand out, and I think Salah probably is the one that stands out the most and will be the most captained. But I don't mind a Spurs option against Wolves either at home. But they've actually been quite good defensively to start the season. They haven't had too tough a matchups, Leeds and Fulham, but they're attacking teams, so they've done well to begin with. So look, I think Salah for me, but if you wanted to go a bit differential, Kane would work. All right, so that's the start of the video. Let's get into the crux of my teams. As you can see, I've been talking about the 4 million goalkeepers. Ward is still in goal for me. Everson on the bench. Andreas first bench. Colback and Taylor are pretty much non-players. Colback maybe be back. I think he was ill last week, but hopefully doesn't get to that point where I require him. It'd be nice if I started De Silva instead and got a bit of team value, but that's that. Into the defence, and still 5 at the back here, and you'll see a new face. But the 2 Liverpool boys, they're not going anywhere. I said that last week. I know they gave up a goal again, but it was, just one counter-attack goal after a lot of pressure that they put on early. And it was sort of, look, I think Gomez will be back, and that will help them a lot. A big game. I think they'll tighten up and absolutely smash United personally. But Robbo was getting in really good positions. Getting hooked at 60 is a bit annoying. I don't think it's concerning. It's just a little bit annoying. I think Klopp sort of restructured the team, got some fresh legs on after the red card, and just for whatever reason wanted to put Simicast on, and watching that game, and when he was on, he was dreadful. So I think Robbo starts again and plays pretty much all the next game. And Trent, absolutely unbelievable. There's no real worth discussing him. Cancelo got his assist from the own goal, just whipped the ball across the box and found its way into the net. I think just they're going to be clean sheets galore, City, aren't they? They're just not giving up any possession, many shots at all conceded, like absolutely nothing. Will be an interesting game against St James's Park, at St James's Park against Newcastle. I'm looking forward to it. But I think they get the job done, and I wouldn't be surprised, of course, with them keeping another clean sheet. Reece was immense in this game last week against Spurs. Gets Leeds away from home, mind you, but should be back out to right wing back, I would assume, and I think is predicted for this game. Probably Azpilicueta will come back in the back three, and just in the second half when he moved out wide, he was just unbelievable. Got his goal. Still gets bonus points back-to-back weeks with a yellow card, but it's just unreal what he does. And early doors, I was annoyed with myself that I flipped from Martinelli to him, but I think in the long run it's going to work, and he's just had a price rise too, and has Cancelo, which is always nice. Now here's the guy you see. So Tommy Yasu had Christensen and had Neto, and I'll bring it up anyway. So these are the transfers I made, and it was before the game week was over. Now this is something I pretty much never do, and didn't do at all before last season, and I've done it early. And I think early in the season is about the only time you really would consider it. Otherwise, always wait for more information, and you want to just get everything you can in case of another injury, or more quotes midweek or something. You never know. So always delay your transfers. But the only way for me to get Martinelli into my team was through getting a 4.4 defender. Now there was pretty much no one else. Now there's actually Sanchez, who looks like he might be starting because Romero's injured. So if that was available at the time, I probably would have gone in with him. But Martinelli was rising. I had no option. If I didn't do it then, I would have been priced out. So I had two options, and my first plan was to do Foden to Saka, but I think Foden looking really good. I know he did get hooked at half time. I think that was more of a little disciplinary thing that he should have passed to Haaland, and I don't want to get back into that. I've already moved past it, but my team would have looked worse with doing Foden to Saka and then Christensen to any sort of 5mm defender, having to still field Neto, and I just didn't really want to do that against Spurs. So I thought I'll get Neto up to Martinelli, I'll get Tommy Yasu in for Christensen, and my starting 11 will be looking a lot better for it. Yes, my bench is very weak, and at the time I wasn't sure if Andreas would be okay with his injury, but that all seems to be good. So that's the transfer I made. Long way of saying it, but to get to Tommy Yasu, I'm obviously not certain he'll start this upcoming game week. So he came on late, I think 15, 20 minutes to go for Ben White, as did Tierney on the left for Zinchenko. There's still a bit of question marks over what the first choice back four will be. But what I do know is that Tommy Yasu is absolutely the first choice right back. It's just a matter of whether he's fit enough to start this upcoming game week after just getting a little cameo at the end there after being sort of injured for a little bit of the off-season. So I absolutely know that he's the first choice right back, but whether Arteta just keeps it with Ben White for now and keeps trying to build up Tommy Yasu's fitness is yet to be seen. Obviously, I'm hoping that's not the case and he can start this week. But if he's not, I'll have to cop it. And if I hopefully get a bit more information before the deadline, I'd happily field Andreas at home to Brentford. If I'm aware, because I think Tommy Yasu will come on again and sort of block that and get another probably 1-pointer. But that's sort of just the way I had to do it, and the only reason I was getting Martinelli in my team and an overall sort of better starting 11 in my opinion. So been a long one so far. We'll get onto the midfield. So obviously it looks like this now. Mo Salah is my captain. I can't pass up that United fixture, the way they look, what happened last year, what he's done to them in the past two fixtures as well. I was tempted by Jesus. I think Bournemouth will do what they sort of have been doing and park the bus, and whether or not Arsenal can break that down enough to get a few goals. I think we'll get a couple of goals, but I don't think it's going to be a 4-5 like City can. They're just much better at doing it, have experience in breaking down those type of teams pretty much for the last 10 years almost. So Arsenal, whilst we're looking good and it's a new fresh team, I don't think they're as well equipped as City to sort of get in and behind such a team that's got a lot of defenders behind the ball. So I think that's my reasoning for going with Salah. Obviously Jesus could haul again. I think they're both really good options, as are the Spurs boys if anyone has them. Foden, I expect him to start. I actually expect, and it's been predicted, that Grealish will come back in on the left and Foden will go back over to the right, which probably less chance for return than him, especially goals, more probably assists, as he plays a lot wider on the right. But I think he'll start and get most of the game there. And then they've got some good fixtures after that as well. And Martinelli, the man of the moment, the man that's rose up to 6.3 now. Had him in a lot of my preseason teams. For whatever reason, decided to go without him for game week 1, and it's backfired a bit, and he's just been unreal. But he has had he hasn't been as on fire, if I can get my words out, as people have sort of been saying. Like, chances wise, look, he's taken his chances that he's had. He's looked really good on the ball and dribbling past people and whatnot. But at the crux of it, the actual opportunities he's had haven't been like, everywhere and all the time. It's just his second goal, the goal against Leicester, he took very well, but it was a left-footed shot from outside the box, in off the post. And outside of that, he didn't do a hell of a lot. But I think he's just looking so good. Arsenal's looking good. I think there's definitely just more points for him. And at that cheaper price than what Saka is, it's really good value. Then, lastly, we get into the forward line, and that hasn't changed, of course. Haaland against Newcastle, Jesus against Bournemouth as well, and I'll just have the vice-captaincy on Jesus. But Haaland, there's a lot of talk about, he only had 8 touches against Bournemouth, but that's the factor of such a team that sits so far back. He Phil passed that freaking ball to him, he would be not talking about it at all, and he would have got a lot of points in both of those boys for me last week. But we move on, and I think in a game against Newcastle, I think there's more chance of points, to be perfectly honest. Like we saw against West Ham, higher line, getting in behind, taking his chances. I think it's better for Haaland than those teams like Bournemouth. So I look forward to that game, as I've said before. But been a long one. Let me know what your transfers are. Let me know what you're thinking, and always be planning for the next couple of game weeks ahead. So fingers crossed for me, Tommy Yasu starts. If not, I'll be looking at a 1-pointer or possibly just fielding Andreas. But I think he's not too far away, and I think he's definitely first choice. If you had the chance to go someone else, I would try and pick a different defender from Arsenal, or triple attack looks really good as well. But there is really just some question marks over, if Tommy Yasu comes in, Ben White, does he sit to the bench? Does he take Saliba or Gabriel's spot? What's the go there? And then Tierney, does he come in for Zinchenko? Does Zinchenko go in the midfield? It's a lot to be seen still. And I know it's working at the moment, so, probably lean more towards Arteta keeping it the same. But I'm just not sure. So I think Tommy Yasu is probably the most certain that he starts at that position, because we don't really have any other right backs. Ben White's not a natural right back. Cedric isn't good, so I think he's clearly the option there. He's just had a bit of an injury, a lot of injuries since he's got to the club. Really, he hasn't played a hell of a lot. He's had probably 2 or 3 now, so it is a risk for sure. If I have to make a transfer to like a Sanchez, like I said, next week, so be it. But hopefully we get some more information from Arteta this week. All right, that's me. I'm done. Good luck for this game week, guys, and I'll catch you on the team review for game week 3.
Got the mojo deals, we been tripping like 80. Pulling out the coupe at the lot.